After narcissistic abuse, the person who scares you the most may not be the one who says the wrong thing. It may be the one who says every right thing. Someone talks about boundaries, accountability, trauma, repair, and emotional safety. The language feels like evidence that this person has done the work. Then the fear arrives. What if the work was only learning the language? You can get trapped between believing every polished sentence and distrusting every emotionally fluent person. Neither choice will help you build a real relationship. So today I'm not going to teach you how to read a hidden motive or diagnose a date. I'm going to show you how to translate healing language into something observable. So 3 questions. What are you taking responsibility for? Does the principle run both ways? What changes next time? Let's go back to our previous example, Riley and Morgan. They're still dating. Morgan speaks openly about therapy and says accountability is important. Morgan knows phrases like impact carries more weight than intention, or your boundaries are valid. Then Morgan arrives 40 minutes late for an important dinner and sends no message. Riley sits alone, unsure whether Morgan is coming. When Morgan arrives, the apology sounds excellent. I got dysregulated. I understand that my behavior had an impact, and I'm taking accountability for that. Okay, maybe Morgan means every word. Maybe Morgan is repeating language learned in therapy. Maybe the apology is an attempt to make the problem disappear. Riley can't know from that sentence alone, but Riley can translate the sentence. That's the one practice in this episode. Translate the language. Don't grade how sophisticated it sounds. Ask what it names, whether the principle runs both ways, and what will be different next time. So the first translation, what are you taking responsibility for? When they say, I'm taking accountability, it can sound complete while naming nothing. Accountability becomes clear when Morgan can identify the conduct without hiding inside a label. It's not just, I was dysregulated. Morgan left Riley waiting for 40 minutes and didn't send a message. The book OLNE connects accountability to decisions, conduct, consequences, and learning. It isn't established by the identity a person claims. So Riley might ask, what are you taking responsibility for? It's not a trap. Riley is giving Morgan room to make the apology concrete. So Morgan might say, I lost track of time, saw that I was already late, and avoided messaging because I felt embarrassed. That left you waiting without information. Now the language points to an action and an outcome. Morgan isn't using the word dysregulated to erase the choice that followed the feeling. Let's say Morgan says, I already told you, I was dysregulated. I can't help that you look at it or you took it personally. Now that answer also gives Riley information. Morgan has named an internal state, but assigned the relational consequence to Riley. Vecnin separates internal clinical change from observable behavior. Whatever may be happening inside a person, the relationship still has to respond to what the person does. You don't have to decide that the feeling is fake. The feeling may be completely real. You can accept the feeling and still keep the conduct in view. Try the translation whenever accountability becomes abstract. What action are you taking responsibility for? What effect do you understand it had? What part of this belongs to you? A person doesn't need clinical vocabulary to answer those questions, and having clinical vocabulary doesn't answer them automatically. The second translation, does the principle run both ways? Hmm. Healing language often carries a principle: boundaries, grace, safety, space, consent, compassion. The next translation asks whether the principle protects both people or only the person speaking. So let's say Morgan says, I need grace when I'm overwhelmed. That's a reasonable request. Riley can care that Morgan felt overwhelmed. Riley also needed enough information to decide whether to keep waiting. Grace can't mean Morgan receives understanding while Riley absorbs every consequence. Both people remain real. A few days later, Riley tells Morgan, I don't answer personal messages while I'm working. If something's urgent, call me. Morgan says, that boundary makes me feel abandoned. I need a partner who prioritizes emotional safety. Again, the language sounds informed. The translation is simple. Does Morgan believe boundaries protect each person's time and autonomy? Or does boundary mean Morgan's preferences govern Riley? The book OLNE treats clear boundaries as a way to preserve each person's distinct needs and autonomy. Vecnin also warns that therapeutic language can be used to pathologize another person or close communication instead of clarifying it. That doesn't make every emotional objection manipulative. Morgan is allowed to feel hurt. Morgan can ask for a different communication agreement. Riley can listen and still keep the limit. Riley might say, for example, I hear that my unavailability is difficult for you. I'm still answering, either I'm still not answering personal messages while I work. We can talk about whether another agreement works for both of us. Now the principle has to run both ways. Morgan gets to name a need, Riley gets to retain a limit. Neither person's emotional language silently becomes authority over the other. This translation is especially useful when someone says, my boundary is that you blank. If you love me, you would respect my need for blank. Your trauma is stopping you from giving me blank. Don't argue about the label first. Translate the principle. Would this rule still seem fair if our positions were reversed? Does this protect your choice or control mine? What choice remains available to each of us? You may discover a misunderstanding that conversation can repair. You may discover incompatible needs. Or you may discover that the principle disappears whenever it protects you instead of the other person. You don't need to name the motive before deciding what you'll participate in. The third translation is what changes next time. The third translation moves from explanation to follow through. So after late dinner, Riley can ask, what will you do differently if this happens again? Morgan might say, if I'm going to be late, I'll message you as soon as I know. If I don't, you should make your own plans instead of waiting. That answer's concrete. It can be lived. The next time work runs late, Morgan sends a message before the meeting time. Morgan doesn't have to deliver a perfect speech. The changed action is the answer. Or the same pattern may return. Morgan arrives late, gives another polished apology, becomes offended when Riley remembers the first conversation, and insists that taking accountability should end the discussion. Riley doesn't know everything happening inside Morgan. Riley now knows that the apology hasn't changed this part of the relationship. The book OLNA places trust in consistency, honor promises, reliability, and respect for vulnerability and boundaries. Shared time and varied experience show how a person handles stress, novelty, cooperation, and problem solving. Follow through doesn't require perfection. People forget, people become defensive. New skills can look awkward before they become natural. One disappointing response doesn't define a whole person. The question is whether a conversation can enter the relationship and influence what happens next. When the same explanation keeps returning without a changed response, you don't have to prove that the apology was fake. You can decide that the current pattern can't carry more trust or access. And notice that this doesn't require Morgan, or what this doesn't require. Morgan doesn't have to speak perfectly. A less polished response may translate better, actually. I messed up. I was embarrassed that I was late, so I avoided texting you. That made the situation worse. Next time I'll message you as soon as I know. That apology has no impressive clinical language. It still names the conduct, recognizes Riley's experience, and identifies a different response. Riley can understand what Morgan means and later see whether Morgan follows through. The reverse can also happen. Morgan may give a flawless explanation why the lateness happened, whilst never saying, I left you waiting, or I'll send you a message next time. The explanation may be accurate. It may even help Morgan understand why Morgan avoided the texting, but Riley still needs the part that belongs inside a relationship. This is why the translation is more useful than grading the performance. Fluency can impress you, clumsiness can worry you. Neither tells you as much as whether the conversation reaches specific conduct, equal autonomy, and next action that can actually happen. An honest person may not answer perfectly in the first try. Morgan might need a pause, ask Riley what felt most harmful, or return to the conversation after thinking. The point is not instant fluency. The point is whether both people can move from explanation to shared reality without one person's languaging or language ending the inquiry. Vecnin actually compares some narcissistic presentations to aggressive mimicry. In Vagnin's account, a misleading resemblance changes another person's behavior and creates access or advantage for the person using it. It's not a clinical test or clinical dating test. Vagnin also says ordinary human beings engage in mimicry. We learn by imitation. We borrow words and behaviors while developing new skills. A rehearsed sentence may be sincere practice, image management, manipulation, or some mixture the speaker doesn't fully understand. So, spotting the mimic doesn't mean declaring that a person is a mimic. It means spotting the gap between a principle being spoken and a principle being lived. Do not become a detective. Don't bait someone, manufacture jealousy, stage a conflict, search devices, or create secret tests. Ordinary life will produce enough disagreement, delay, embarrassment, and repair. And don't turn therapeutic language itself into a warning sign. Therapy attendance isn't proof of health, but it isn't evidence of pathology either. A polished apology may be sincere. An awkward apology may lead to real change. The translation protects you from having to guess what exact conduct is being named. What does the principle run both ways? And what changes next time? Then make one decision using what has actually been demonstrated. You can appreciate the apology and keep the same pace. You can protect a confidence, decline a trip, keep finances separate, reduce contact, or end the relationship. You can also keep opening when the language and conduct become more consistent together. You're not announcing who the person is. You're deciding what the current relationship can support. And of course, if coercion, stalking, threats, violence, sexual coercion, retaliation, or credible danger is present, Don't remain exposed while waiting for another example. Prioritize distance, confidential support, and immediate protection. The goal isn't perfect detection. Nobody can promise you that. The goal is to stop giving polished language more authority than demonstrated conduct. You can remain open without abandoning judgment. You can hear someone's intention without betting your future in it. And you can trust yourself without becoming suspicious of everybody who's learned how to speak about healing. Translate the language, keep the conduct in view, then choose from what the relationship has actually shown you. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
I don't want the version who's frightening to stay in. I held you too close, like I could stop the changing. I don't want devotion built from locked doors. I want your honest hands when they choose this shore. Go where your heart can still hear itself. Become who you are when no one is watching. And if you return, let it be because your name still felt light in the dark and the rush. I don't wanna own you, I wanna know you. I want the one who comes back on their own. Every open road still carry you toward me. Every open road still carry you home. Some days love is quiet, just a door left open. No chains on the future, no vows left broken. We can change like weather, still mean the same. Two people away, choosing the flame. Go where your heart can still hear it. Become who you are when no one is watching. And if you return, let it be because your name still felt light in the dark and the rush. I don't wanna own you, I wanna know you. I want the one who comes back on their own. Every open road still carried you toward me. Every open road still carried you home. If we meet again, let it not be fear, let it be the calm of a love stayed clear. No locked up promise, no desperate hope, just two free hearts.